Speak Up with Vernisa and Jen. It's time to speak up.
Hello everyone, my name is Vernisa.
Hey y'all, this is Jen.
And this is our podcast, Speak Up. What's up, Jen?
Hey girl.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Got 30 minutes, episode 80.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
Time is just flying.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, me and Jen are best friends. We create this podcast to use our voices to motivate people to overcome life challenges through self-love and respect.
That's right. No matter how many episodes we do or whatever we talk about, self-love and respect are always going to be two core values we hold near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, most definitely. But before we get started, a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors. Shout out to My Bar, located at 720 East Manchester in Inglewood, California. Get your nails, your lashes, your hair done. Ask for mine. Tell me that SpeakUpJV sent you. As you can see, she just slayed my nails. So make sure y'all tap in.
And shout out to Be Actual Natural. Why settle for less? All their products are created with you in mind for a goal to let your self-love show through your self-care. Their chemical-free hair and skincare products are handmade, plant-based, and free of fillers or preservatives. Treat yourself while you're taking care of yourself. Start your journey at www.beactualnatural.com or check them out on Instagram at beactualnatural.
Yes, you would definitely love the products.
Yes.
Yeah, so tonight's episode is titled Wait For You. Oh, we ain't talking about no Drake song either.
Right.
So what are we waiting for, best friend? What's going on?
Well, as the title implies, waiting for you, right? You're not waiting for no other person, but it's waiting for yourself. And obviously, as we get more into the episode, we're going to talk about what that actually means, but it's in the sense of the power in waiting for things to happen and observing. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, I think we're in such a fast-paced, chaotic life where like everything has to be done now, the instant gratification, this and that. So it's like sometimes you need to just pause and just wait and also learn while you're waiting. So we're definitely getting into that. So let's talk about the power of protecting your energy and peace. You have to wait to be able to do that. When you're on the go, when you're on the rush, when you're allowing everybody in your space, you're not protecting yourself effectively.
Yeah, and I think this is a really big one because it is true what they say about where you put your energy is where the power goes, right? So if you're not even protecting your energy, you're not realizing what you're thinking about, who you're paying attention to, who's in your ear, then you may not even realize that you're putting energy into all the wrong places. And obviously, like, nobody's perfect. We have to go through a trial and error of where we put our energy, but this is the biggest thing to achieving that inner peace that we always talk about. Because once you realize how much control you actually do have over waiting for certain things, making a certain decision, talking to certain people, then you realize too where that power lies even within yourself and decisions that would affect your life even more personally.
I love that because I feel like when we're not in waiting mode, it's easy for us to act on our impulses and do things fast. And that's why it's important to go in observant mode. I've been practicing that a lot lately. Like instead of, because I know I can be personally, I know I can be a very dominant person. I kind of like go after what I want. I'm not afraid to like voice certain things. But at the same time, I've been learning like the power of like sitting back and observing, seeing other people's actions, or seeing how other things play out, letting things flow, and like releasing that control that I always feel like I have to have over certain things.
Yeah, I feel you on that control thing though. That's something a lot of people can relate to, but I like that because you're emphasizing that balance, right? That it's good to go after what you want to, but at the same time, like when you let people do what they want to do and say what they want to say, then you realize too what other people maybe shouldn't be on that same journey as you, because the thing that can happen too is that we get clouded, right, by certain people, maybe certain things, certain lifestyles that they live. So we think that either to please them or keep them, that we need to be that same way, and without realizing it, we're no longer aligning with our values. We're no longer living the life that we want to actually live. So this could be a really big problem. But when you're actually waiting to even date or waiting to get new friendships or even waiting to make a new career move, anything like that, there's power in it because then you're also not clouded so much even by the hype of that new thing or new person or whichever. So I think this is really important to even emphasize.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up people clouding us because there's been plenty of times, like especially like in my people pleasing days, where like you're trying so hard to like fit into that box. You're not being your authentic self, or you're not getting your needs satisfied, like whatever it is that you need from a person, because you're trying so hard to make sure they're good and they're okay. So sometimes it is good to take a step back and really reflect, what is this situation offering for my life? Am I filling their cup as well?
Right.
And take it from there. I'm gonna make this clear too, it's not easy to be in that waiting period. There's it requires a lot of no's, it requires a lot of you choosing yourself, and we think choosing ourselves is always easy, and it's really not. Especially when it's in your heart, you want to help other people, or like if you're lacking certain love for yourself, you're going to try so hard to seek that validation from other people. So that's another thing we want to emphasize, like none of this we're speaking about is simple.
Oh, that's a really big one too. And even knowing that for ourselves we can make certain mistakes, right? Put energy into certain things that we shouldn't, then we should have a similar grace with other people. Like we shouldn't be putting all these higher expectations on them than they can actually meet for us. Because at the same time too, like we fail as people as well, right? That as much as we want to be like the best partner, the best whatever, we fall short sometimes. So when we're waiting, we're also working on that, in knowing that even if I've worked on myself and this other person has worked on themselves either, that there's still going to be those disappointments, there's going to be those flaws coming in the way, certain triggers. Obviously the more time you spend with somebody too, the more you're going to see all of that, right? Like the ugliness that can happen. And I ain't just talking about like waking up in the morning, I'm talking about like it's what somebody looks like when they're having a really bad day.
Yeah, and sometimes you catch yourself waiting on someone else. And we're emphasizing here waiting on you. We don't get trapped in that. I think sometimes people try to put us against the wall to where we feel like we're stuck having to wait for them to change or to meet those expectations. And they do usually say when people let us down, it's not even them letting us down or letting down the thought of them that we had. Because at the end of the day, I learned this too. People are being themselves. Like they're just, we had this idea of them, but really people are going to act in who they are when they do certain things. So if they do something shady or grimy, that is a part of their personality when they do things. And then they too, sometimes too, it's easier to do things that require you not to love yourself. There's like, how many times have you say yes to something you really want to say no, that's best for your best interest, but you say yes, and that was obviously a lack of us loving ourselves. But sometimes it is easier, and I think we have to watch out and not fall for that trap. It takes strength. It takes you standing firm on yourself to choose you. Sometimes not the easiest thing.
Oof, no, that's a big one, because I know, especially with what you were talking about with that instant gratification, maybe fear of missing out, like we tend to put that pressure on ourselves of like, oh well, I'm gonna come off a certain type of way if I say no, or they're gonna think that I'm no fun because I don't want to do this and that, right? Like it can be obviously to whatever your standards are, whatever your values are, but the biggest thing is knowing that you're doing it for you, that at the end of the day too, people end up doing or not doing something for themselves, right? Like if you've ever been let down by somebody or you wanted them to do something and they didn't do it, then it's kind of along those lines, like they chose themselves in that moment. So learning to choose yourself in this moment too. And obviously certain things apply to your lifestyle as you wish, but I think this is one of the biggest things. Saying no is really hard. Like, I know we've talked about this extensively before in other episodes, but no is a complete sentence. Like, as much as you would wish to be doing something or whichever, like if it doesn't align with you, if it's hurting you or something, then learning to say no is going to be your best bet, especially in that waiting or observant period, because you're going to start learning about people, but also about yourself.
Oh, that was well said. I want to say this too, like in the chapter that I'm currently in, I'm learning to like stand up for myself more and like say no and be okay with it, and like value what I need on the inside, right? So I'm not gonna lie, there's been a few instances recently where I didn't do something probably that someone else wanted me to do, but I was like firm in my decision of not doing it. And I look back and like I had a moment where I would question like, dang, I should, but it's like, no, I had to reflect and say, no, that's the people pleasing you, making you question your decision. What did Vernisa really want? You stood on what Vernisa wanted, so that's what matters at the end of the day. So I think I've been acting in that energy, in that space lately, and that's making me feel better about my decisions of saying saying no or standing firm on my ground, because it is easy to fall into that, like, dang, it would have, this person probably would have liked me more, accepted me more, this and that, or da-da-da, if I would have did this, or I look a certain way by saying or not doing whatever they wanted me to do. And it's like, no, at the end of the day, what do you want to do? And it's like, when you, in the day, when you realize you're choosing yourself and you're choosing what's good for your best interest, that's what it's going to do. A real person, anyone in your life, whether you tell them no or not, like, you know the person once you tell them no, honestly. But when you tell them or not, that shows their real character. Yes, it's easier for someone to be cool with you when you say yes all the time, they get their way. But when they don't get their way with you, that's really who you know. And if they honor your boundaries and if they respect you. So that's something to put out there.
Big time. It reminds me of that quote that says, the people who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. And it's like along the sense of, if there's somebody who loves you and respects you as an individual, then they're going to respect your boundaries or your decisions, whether you give a full explanation or not too, because that's another thing, right? Like, we don't owe nobody anything. Of course, certain people, yes, but like, to a certain degree, it's if you have a certain boundary about something, there's no need for you to have to explain why you are this way and things like that. You just have that boundary and it's okay. And this leads me to thinking people are going to say, oh, well, I don't want to lose this person or these people. If somebody in your life can be lost because you've set up a healthy boundary, then that's somebody that doesn't have your best interest in mind anyway. So why should you have their best interest in mind? And let's be real, right? Self-love is very lonely at times. And that's why you're going to see that the more you work on yourself, the more you are probably going to lose people in your life. Because again, it goes back to those who are always in your business or wishing you bad, or only around when either you're popping or things are going super well for you. Then you're gonna see that the more you work on yourself, those people are only on the surface level. Like, they're like the surface level friendships, right? Surface level relationships. Like, it's the people who only like what everybody else sees, but then once they see what's actually underneath, then that's when they dip out. It's too whatever for them. So when you're working on your self-love and you realize you're getting rid of all these people, you may be like, well, damn, am I doing something wrong? On the contrary, you're doing something right. And then along the way, you're going to meet people or realize you've had people along the way who actually do care about you and about your well-being. And they will accept you and love you no matter what kind of ugliness you're carrying. Or I wouldn't even say ugliness, more so like the unperfect parts of you.
I want to say this too. Toxic people do benefit from you not loving yourself. So that's the thing. Once you start loving yourself, standing firm, they don't get their way. That's why they run off. The supply is gone.
Yeah.
You have to be very cautious of that, because the people who really care, they're going to give you your space. Okay, understand, have grace with you, be understanding, and is it empathetic, sympathetic, one of those. both of them to that, and also keep yourself in check, in the waiting time. If you catch yourself going into old patterns, really that self-talk is important. Having that self-discipline, really stay firm with yourself. Lately I've been really practicing that, like not getting in my head as much, being more mindful of the moment, not thinking too far ahead, trying not to take things personal when people do a certain thing, learning like, okay, reflecting on every decision I made and making sure it's the right thing that worked for what I needed.
Because let's be real, times are hard, right? So sometimes we feel overwhelmed, stressed out, a certain intense type of emotion, and we're used to things a certain way. So maybe we use certain things to cope or do certain habits to cope, right? But they may not be in our best interest. So we fall back into that. And it's okay in the sense of knowing that it happens, but then recognizing when it does, what are we going to do after that? How can we be better? Like, I'm learning to forgive myself for the mistakes that I make, but also to check myself if I don't improve on them. It's like that accountability, that teacher, that person in your ear, because you always know if you're not doing something that's on your path or aligning with your own values. So always just making sure you're keeping it real with yourself. You are the one person you cannot lie to as much as you would like to say that you can. And in that as well, right? If sometimes you feel like certain situations or certain people are too triggering, then don't give them energy. Don't give them that response. Not everything deserves to be addressed. That's where that whole pick your battles thing comes in, right? That like sometimes, somebody said something to us or they made a certain gesture to us, and we're like, what the hell? I want to go in rage mode and, say something back. But sometimes it's like, what? My mom always told me, let there be one crazy person arguing and not two people.
Woo! Shout out to your mama.
So bringing that to y'all, and saying that, like, even sometimes, let's say, this I feel like we can all relate to. You're on the road, right? And you're driving, somebody cuts you off, or somebody does some stupid thing and they almost hit you, whatever, and like in your moment you're like, what the hell, you know, you honk at them, you yell at them, cuss them out, flip the finger, whatever you want to do. But it's like, okay, sure, react how you want to react in that moment, but don't let it turn into something that affects your whole day or even your whole life at that, because unfortunately, yeah, we've seen certain circumstances where that can go very sour. So that's where my point comes in of like picking your battles and deciding when you are going to give something energy and when you're not, especially like if you're in a situation that is no longer benefiting you in any type of way, you're doing all the work in it. If you feel like you've said and done everything you can, then maybe it's time to no longer address things, go quiet and go off.
I love that. And sometimes people do things just to get reactions out of you. It ain't even about what happened. They just want to. And I learned the power of I don't have to, give that energy. Like, no. And obviously if someone is purposely poking at you, you don't need to be around them. Sometimes things are just not for you. Some people just ain't for you. And I learned to be okay with that as well. I don't even care what label I give you. Family member, friendship. I think we always talk about this too. We put so much emphasis on these labels, but it's like you really need to reflect, how is this person making me feel? How are they treating me? Are they respecting me in return? Are we valuing each other? And I think when you put people through that test, the label's not going to matter in that aspect.
Oh, big time. I think we need to stop being so scared of hurting other people's feelings in that sense, right? Of like, if it's not working for me, I'm not aligning with this type of person, our personalities don't click, our lifestyles don't click, whatever, I shouldn't feel guilty for not wanting to have this person in my life anymore or have them be as close. I think like even for me, right, when I was thinking about the dating that I've done, like there were certain times where I wanted a guy to like me so much that I pretended to be into things that he was into, when in reality it's like it wasn't nothing bad, but it was just like, yeah, I'm not really into this subject as much as I led on to be. And we need to be okay with that, right? Like, why do we have to mold our personality every single time we start dating somebody or meeting somebody, just to get them to like us? That's where actually our time comes in, of realizing, do we even like them? Do they click with us? Just the same way, right? So that's why that waiting period is very important too, so we don't get clouded by all the emotions that can come around, or even the topics that we talk about with him thinking I'm really into, I don't know, video games when I'm really not, so just thinking about stuff like that.
That's true, because I feel like too, when we, obviously I've learned from experience too, and like as the time goes by, obviously our true self comes out. So it's like, and also too, the importance of normalizing taking breaks for healing. It's okay to pause and just do what you got to do and be real with yourself. Okay, I need a break. I was actually on the phone with somebody the other day, and they mentioned how they just took a 2-year break of certain things, certain habits to get their mind right. It's not, honestly, I thought that was healthy and dope. There's nothing wrong with that. Like realizing, okay, I need a nice 2 months of focus time or whatever it is, or cut off all these distractions of whatever it is. You know what I mean? Because when we do that, I think that's when we really can see ourselves and work on whatever needs to be worked on.
Yeah, some of y'all may not want to hear this, but I say the least amount of time you should do that is about 3 months, 6 months. I would say even a year from anything. Like, especially if it was something that, your feelings were involved, or you put time into this person. It could be a friendship too. And you've let this situation go. Give yourself that year, because I can guarantee you in that time, you'll see how you slip and fall into old habits. If you feel like you're still thinking about them a lot, you're still talking about them a lot, you miss certain things about them, then that's how you, let's be real, no, you're not actually fully over that situation. And that's not a good thing, not for yourself and not for the next person you're either going to meet or befriend or anything, because then you realize you're taking some of the traumas that you've had from that previous situation into this new one, or even certain expectations, right? Maybe this person used to do this and that, but your new person doesn't do all those things. It doesn't mean they're any worse. It just means they're different people, different habits, right? Different upbringings as well. So when we're taking this time to realize that not everybody's going to be the same either, we can stop putting all these such big expectations on people and just letting them be who they are and show us if we align or not.
Ooh, that was well said. And you gain clarity when you wait. There's something about that solitude, that peace. Like even when I do like my 5 minutes of silence, there's like so much clarity that comes when I ground myself and just rethink. You know, you ever deal with something and, you know, they say like, what did Ella Cool just say, you make decisions when you mad. Like, it's true. When you in the moment, something's happening, you're not going to be thinking straight. You're going to be impulsive, emotional, and not think. Sometimes we do not think logical when we're in our emotions. So sometimes you do have to take a pause. You know what? I'm going to come back to this, take a breather. Even like when someone, let's say someone does me foul or rubs me the wrong way, sometimes I like take a nice 24-hour break from that person, even if it is just pulling away, getting, because that distance, that'll bring that clarity of like, okay, how do I move healthy in this situation without hurting someone's feelings, hurting my own, or just doing something I'm going to regret, like, you know, fully cussing them out, cutting them off when really it probably was an accident or whatever. So just learning that, taking that break to gain that clarity is important.
That's true. And in being real, it takes strength to love yourself properly, right? I think this is one of the biggest things where we are actually tested in how much do you actually love yourself. And it can be even in the minor things of like, you know, someone's going out to go do something that you don't want to do, and they ask you, and ultimately it's up to you if you want to say yes or no, and how badly does that, you know, actually go into your life or not. So when we're I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. When we're faced with these certain type of decisions, then that's where that self-love test is really in there, and you get to see how much progress you've even made. Like, I like to test myself in those ways too. Like, if certain things come up that maybe I don't want to do or I don't want to talk about, then how much have I actually grown to protect myself enough to not give energy to that.
And I've been learning the importance too of letting go of the excuses. Like, how many of us, we just use our past all day. This happened. As yes, it does shape us, it's a part of us, but you know, what are we gonna do about it? You know, how are we gonna like now no longer make that our identity that defines us? You know, there was a long period, of course, I needed healing, where I really held on to a lot of things in the past because I was using that as my reasoning, which is true to an extent. But then it's like, I'm in a space where I'm like, okay, this happened, but how can I be better the next day? Or like, how can I not carry that baggage with me into new situations? Because that's what, the more we keep doing that, we're just going to keep taking that everywhere and then using that as our comfort to justify ourselves.
Oof, that's a really big one. We need to start learning to pay attention to ourselves a lot more, because your body will even automatically react before you do. That's why I say body language is a big decision for a lot of things. So making sure that you're even paying attention to that, like how certain things make you feel. You know, are you sweaty? Are your palms feeling a little more damp? Like, it's things like that your body's telling you, maybe this isn't something that I want to do, or I don't feel safest in this situation, or anything like that. You've also heard the term, right? Know your worth, know your worth. We can hear that term all day long. It's one thing to, yes, know your worth, but it's another to actually act on it. Like, what does that even mean to you, right? So we've gotten the definition, we watched all these videos, we've heard all these things, recited everything we possibly could, but are you applying it into your actual day-to-day life? And whatever knowing your worth means to you is obviously going to vary between person to person. So for you, knowing your worth, maybe, you know what, I know that I like to look good, and I'm going to keep standing my ground and dress how I want to dress. This is how I feel sexy, you know, whatever. That's part of you knowing your worth, because you're owning your identity, you're owning your sexiness, you know, however you like to feel good, your confidence. But then knowing your worth too is also, okay, yes, I'm sexy, knowing that I may be attracting certain type of people. Who am I allowing into my space in that case? You know, I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the other gender or the other person that we're trying to date, when in reality it's like, well, I'm still giving my time to them and possibly even my body, right? So if I'm not happy, there's something I can do about that. And that's me honoring my worth in knowing that we're not aligning no more for whatever reason, and it's time for us to go our separate ways.
I like that. And also with knowing your worth, to add on to that, also too, when people treat you less than your worth, not taking that shit in. I think too, like, it's easy, you know, when we don't know our worth, we know our worth, but we're not acting in it. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in someone else's opinion. Or if let's say someone did a 360 on you, they were hot on you one moment and then went cold, it's easy to go down there like, oh, well, maybe it is me, and question. And I've been learning the power of, even if someone flips on me, goes cold, it doesn't mean my worth changed. It doesn't mean I'm still not worthy of getting something better. That, I've been learning the power of, okay, people can be projecting, or you're just not for it. It doesn't mean you're less than because someone is treating you less than. But knowing your worth is standing firm on that, and okay, I'm not going to deal with a person who treats me less than what I know that I'm worth, when I know I deserve more.
Oof, that's a big one. Because in your waiting period too, you're also building that discipline up, right? That discipline against the BS, the discipline to actually do what you want to do, be more goal oriented. So when you're doing that, you're not so impulsive, or you're not acting so much on those impulses. Because let's be real, sometimes, yes, we could be talking to somebody, they piss us off, and we want to say all these things, you know, cuss at them, yell at them, blow their phone up, whatever. But when you're actually waiting, even in that small period of time, you could step back and realize, you know what? I don't need to react to this, at least not as aggressively as I originally wanted to. And I think this is big even for people who are in relationships, that sometimes we're so quick to just act and react to what the other person is saying to us or doing, and we become a certain type of person that we may not be so proud of and may not even resonate with. So when we're actually waiting to give that response, then we can actually approach it in a more, like you were saying, a healthy manner, and realizing that we're actually trying to save a relationship versus trying to damage it even further just because I need to say something real quick and hurt some feelings. That's not going to get us anywhere.
And also too, let people earn parts of you. You know, it's important. I think, you know, this is a part of the waiting thing. I think sometimes too, when we're still healing or we're seeking that validation, someone new could come in our life and we could be quick to like, this could be a friendship too. This isn't just romantic. You know, and I've been guilty of that with friendships. Like, oh, this is my friend. You know, that too. Like we were saying earlier, an example. Or with lovers, right? Like, oh, this person likes me. You know, the chemistry is good. I'm gonna just give my all. And I've been learning the importance of that observing, that sitting back, and does this person earn this next part of me? You know, going deeper and stuff. Especially when you know you're an intense, emotional, sensitive person, you got to protect yourself in all means. Because some people, I mean, they say this too. People act in their representative. You know, you really don't really know a person, so it's like just because they seem cool, some people get in there and they bite you. You know, so it's really about that.
Oof, that's big. This is why, like you were saying, be more logical, right? Think with your mind, not necessarily with your heart, and not trusting too much in the beginning. I think this is a really big thing. And I know some of y'all may not agree, so that's fine, but it's just something that I've learned, that we put too much trust in somebody from the very beginning, whether it's the talking stage, whether it's the getting to know them as my friend stage, whatever. Like, we trust them too much in the sense of like, you know, I would even be alone with them or whatever. And it comes down to the part of, in trusting somebody, you're giving a huge part of your heart, a huge part of your energy into that too. So it also hurts more when you get that first disappointment, they let you down. So imagine finding out too, like, they're not who you thought they were, and you realize you have to cut them off. You know, can't talk to them anymore for whatever reason. So when we learn to step back and wait, then we also learn to let this person earn that trust as well, right? So earning, yes, parts of our body and our time and energy, but also even the emotional parts of it, that we can't be falling so fast for people, thinking, oh, I love this person from the very beginning. Like, let the time be, and it'll show you if this person is meant to be or not, and then if you can actually even trust them or not.
No, that was well said. Honestly, how does this relate to self-love? Self-love is having that patience to wait for yourself. You know, it's honoring yourself to stop, pause, and figure out what's going on so you can love yourself better.
I mean, I think that was beautifully said. Like a solution to this would be what we were saying, let people show you who they really are. Eventually that representative that we were talking about does come down. You know, it all comes down even for us. Like, as much as, you know, you try to wake up pretty and all this stuff, whatever, at some point it's like, all right, you're gonna see me how you see me in the mornings, and that's it. Shout out to all the boos out there. But yeah, like, it's something big when you just let people show you what they want to do, what they want to talk about, what they put their energy into. And if that's something that you rock with, cool, right? Then you met somebody that you can spend the rest of your life with. But if not, then it's okay. You didn't lose too much because you waited.
Yeah, and pay attention when things ain't sitting right with you. How many of us ignored the red flags and just been like, oh, whatever? And it's true, you know, I've been learning the importance of like listening to myself. You know, your body, your spirit tells you something's off before you even really grasp it. And I think that little noise is very subtle too. It's never like, oh my goodness, this is important.
Right.
It's that subtle thing. But I plenty of times I've ignored it, and then later when it went bad, I'm like, damn, I already knew, but I still was like, oh, it's okay. No, you know, so like really trust yourself. You know, I think when you're waiting and you know yourself even more, you're gonna trust yourself more and your instincts.
Yes, what you were saying at the very beginning of that reminds me of how they say the devil doesn't come in red horns, right? They come as everything you ever wanted sometimes. And sometimes that's why we're getting protected, right? For those of you who do have your faith. It's just something that I had to add there because it brought that to my attention of like, yeah, anytime somebody wasn't meant for me, they didn't come as like fee fi fo fum.
That's true.
It was more of like, dang, he does this for me? Yeah, like he brings me flowers every time? Like, what? He says I'm the only one? What? You know, and then we know how those stories end sometimes. So it's that, right? That paying attention always when something's not right. Letting go of the urge to control when we're healing. You brought up a really good point earlier when we were talking that sometimes we try to control what that healing looks like and I should be over it by this, or this is what's going to help me, or this and that. In reality, half the time we don't know what the hell we're doing. So let's be real.
This time period next week.
We just gotta let the emotions flow sometimes, let things be sometimes, and just let time do its thing. I think that's the biggest thing that we can learn from all of this, that in waiting, time is eventually going to, if it doesn't heal the wound fully, at least you can learn to live with it. So
I'm glad you said that, because when I used in my younger days, oh my goodness, I used to like on the block someone. I had like this time frame in a week, you know, once I don't look, I'm gonna be good. If I don't do that, girl, the hot mess, it just be coming apart. So no, stop, let this thing just happen. And then the more you be real with yourself and let it flow, it's gonna be better. And I was telling Jen this earlier, I saw a quote about water. Like it was basically saying how water flows. You know, they say flow like water, but water doesn't force itself into places it's not supposed to. So if it goes and runs into a rock, it's not gonna keep trying to hit the rock. It's gonna flow a different direction. So the same thing with life, like, you know, with waiting to flow, like, you know, the importance of releasing that control and not forcing anything.
It's like that Jet Li quote. I'm blanking on it now, but be like water.
Yeah, there we go.
Don't be afraid to teach others too, right? I mean, I think this is why I love our podcast so much, because we've gone through a lot of mistakes. We've made so many throughout the years that if we could help even one person through our journey and our stories, then that's all the better. You know, that's all we're trying to promote here, healing and just being happy, right? Finding that joy within yourself. So when you're having a story that you've recovered from or you're surviving from, and you can help someone else along the way, then it also makes you feel a little bit better too. And I think that's just an extra plus, especially if you're in your waiting period, right? If you can help others heal in that time too, you got everything.
Go ahead and do it. End of the day, don't make anyone your end all be all. This is everything. Your family, friends, romantic. End of the day, we're with ourselves the rest of our lives. Like, this is the longest relationship. So you can get with someone right now. It doesn't mean that's the end all of everything. The growing is still going to happen. You're still going to work on things. The challenges are still going to rise. No one's an end destination point, you know? So that's another thing to keep in mind too, that even when you're with someone, know that the relationship with yourself is still alive. You know, you're still you're still growing and doing everything every day, and make sure it's in alignment too with you.
I think that's very well said. Because I know sometimes we get so caught up on the one and stuff like that, and it's cool to love somebody and want to spend your life with them, but yeah, don't ever forget to nurture yourself. And if things just don't work out in the end, then don't let that be the end of your world, right? Like if they get to continue moving on, or you know, whatever happened, then you have to be able to do the same, because one thing in life that's guaranteed is it continues forward. Or time at least does. And then in all that, like, you're learning to respect yourself, and when you do that, people learn to respect you in the process too. Like you know, my mom is like my biggest teacher in this, where it's like certain people know not to say certain things in front of her because of who she is as a woman.
Mom was the best.
Yeah, like she was raised a certain way, so certain topics are not for her to be having like at the dinner table or something like that. So, you know, her friends in her life know that about her, and I absolutely respect that, because it's like you're owning yourself, you're having that respect for yourself, and ultimately the people around you are respecting that too.
Oh yeah, I love her mom. And it's true. And also too, with the respect, I think too, the more I've been respecting my time and energy, people have been doing that. Like I'm in a space where I'm not afraid to cut that off. Like, you know, like if someone's wasting my time, I'm not afraid to remove myself. And I learned there's definitely been more respect with people, value it more, because it's like, oh shoot, but it's like when you are just accessible to everyone, and you know, that lack of that self-respect, people take that for granted, like, oh okay, I can just play with this person or whatever. But it's like you have to put that boundary, that emphasis on yourself.
People will only get away with what you allow them to get away with. And we just want to leave y'all off with allowing yourself to transform and evolve. I think there's nothing more beautiful than seeing how much you've grown after like that waiting period, or even during the waiting period, right? Because that waiting period can be as long as you want it to be. So you could even look back to like, dang, I'm not the same person I was last year. And that's the thing, even if you're no longer in a waiting period, I hope that you still allow yourself to transform and evolve and be the best person that you can be. Because there's already so many people out there who are trying to harm other people. At least, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be one of them. So I'm just going to allow myself to continue growing no matter who's around.
Yes, and don't be afraid to wait for yourself. We appreciate y'all tapping into our 80th episode. Woo, time is just flying. Before we go, quick shout out to our amazing sponsors. Shout out to My Bar, located at 720 East Manchester in Inglewood, California. Get your nails, your lashes, your hair done. Ask for mine. Tell them that SpeakUpJV sent you. The Instagram is at myy.bar.
And shout out to Be Actual Natural. Why settle for less? All their products are created with you in mind, for a goal to let your self-love show through your self-care. Their chemical-free hair and skincare products are handmade, plant-based, and free of fillers or preservatives. Treat yourself while you're taking care of yourself. Check them out on Instagram at BeActualNatural, or go to their website at www.beactualnatural.com.
Yes, well, we will see y'all soon. Don't forget to tap into our live Thursday 8:30 p.m. Pacific time episodes of our newest segment, Speak Up JV Now. We're about to hit episode 11, so make sure y'all tap in for some more of us live. And we love you guys, and tap in. Love y'all.
Love y'all.